You look at how IPL started.
Yeah.
IPL started with icon players having 10 or 15% of the top player which you will have in your franchise.
Correct.
Which was just giving the value and the weightage to the Indian players. We don't know how the dynamics is going to pan out if all the Indian players being put in the auction and their quality. So at some stage, I think the franchises will look at it, how the dynamics is going to change. That you don't know, but end of the day, you got to find that right balance.
Yeah.
You don't want right now players thinking that it's Indian Premier League. I'm the most premier player of India, representing country, doing well for the country, doing well at a level like IPL, and then not getting the value which the market is actually deciding. So the 10 teams are deciding the value.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see, how much a Bumrah will command in this kind of a scenario, who has been a consistent performer over the years and a premier fast bowler.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very valid points. And hence, we then saw that bidding war continue into the two teams we expected it from, and you expected it from in particular as well, GT, KKR. Is this a case of them just saying, well, there aren't many options left, we have to throw everything at it?
Well, they basically dug themselves a hole. So they waited the whole auction to get Mitchell Starc, which, to be fair, RCB almost did. And then they decided to go for Alzari beforehand because they knew what was going to unfold. So it's bizarre, because what's GT going to do now?
Yeah.
So it's one of those strategies that can leave you exposed. And GT's going to go home with a lot of money because there's not a lot of money left to spend in terms of what's left. I mean, they'll probably go all out for Shah Rukh Khan now because they can, but they can't really spend. But there's nothing to spend on.
Yeah.
So it's a strategy fraught with danger, really. And I think RCB Mumbai, I think, are the ones who have done really well getting out of this. To get Kutsia and Madhushankar under 10 crore with all this chaos going on around them, I think is great buy.
Yeah, unbelievable buys, both of those for the Mumbai Indians. Gerald Kutsia at 5, Madhushankar at 4.6, absolute steals. But we saw both those Delhi boys, Gautam Gambhir and Ashish Nehra, go toe-to-toe for Mitch Starc. As Hess said, Zach, they were cornered, weren't they? Because suddenly there's a lack of experienced premier fast bowlers to come after this. And Harshal at 11.75, Shardul now at 4, looks like the bargain buy of the day in many ways.
Well, I think when you wait for that long, or when you have that kind of clarity, I mean, two of the biggest buys right now from the auction, Pat Cummins and Mitchell Starc, you see two teams having that clarity. Maybe RCB was looking at backup to Faf also, if something happens to him, who is going to lead the side, that kind of balance. So that captaincy record of Pat Cummins, maybe how he has been handling Australian team, all those factors were definitely being put into play there. Similarly with Gujarat Titans also, they had the money, KKR had the money, GT had the money, and the clarity that this marquee bowler is going to definitely upgrade the existing bowling lineup which they have. And because of that clarity, and you have the purse available, you don't have too many slots to fill, you just want to go the distance, and it's just about then which camp is holding their nerves. And I think KKR had that clarity of definitely going the distance no matter what. I think another 1-2 bids also, they were ready for it.
Yeah, and they had 12 slots to fill coming in, but they don't necessarily have to fill all those slots. They got Mitch Starc at 24.75, Chetan Sakaria at 50, and KS Bharat at 50 lakhs, which maybe then just adds a bit of flexibility within that KKR setup. But let's hear from the CEO of the squad, Venki Mysore, standing by.
Sort of look at it from the set of lenses of a price you pay for a player. It seems like, wow, 24.75. I was telling someone that the salary cap of a team when IPL started in 2008 was 20 crores, entire salary cap. So things have changed, right? But, I think our view is when the auction is over, all the 10 teams are going to walk out of the auction having spent 100 crores. And each team decides to slice it differently. So what you've paid to somebody, up, down, whatnot, is a matter of perspective. Ultimately, we're all spending the same amount of money.
Interesting that, Anil, when you hear from Venki Mysore, he says, look, at the end of the day, we have 100 to spend. How you slice and dice it depends on you. And when you look at this squad, you've now got a Gurbaz, Jason Roy up the top. You've also got KS Bharat, who could now come in as your Indian keeper. And then you've got a Dre Russ, Sunil Narayan, and down the bottom, because of Chetan Sakaria, you can place Starc. You've got Harshit Rana from last time around, and Varun CV as well. So, in some sense, they're backing this stable 11 with a few additions, and they'd probably hit that 18 mark and say, okay, we're done.
No, I fully agree. I mean,
Yeah.
in terms of you have 100 crores, you know how you can manage those 100 crores. But my point was totally different.
Yeah.
I think coming back to KKR, yes, they certainly needed an overseas fast bowler who has the experience, because they don't have that experience in that lineup. Even Chetan Sakaria is a good buy at 50. It was a steal for them, but they don't have the experience. You know, you have you have young fast bowlers there. Harshit Rana is there, and Vaibhav Arora is there. They're still, you know.
Russell may not give you his entire quota.
Yeah, unlikely. The good part for KKR is that Russell is in the lineup for the T20 World Cup. So which means that, you know, he will bowl a lot more. He will want to be that player for KKR. So that's a good thing for KKR. But having said that, I think that lineup certainly looks stronger with Mitchell Starc there. But yes, I mean, the numbers, you know, when you slice it to an individual player, that's something that I certainly can't fathom, because this is the Indian Premier League, and I certainly believe that you don't want a situation where players like Mitchell Starc hasn't come to IPL for the last 8 years. He's put his name on a couple of occasions. He's been picked by the same team. I think Pat Cummins was picked by KKR, then Mitch Starc was picked again, and then he didn't come for the IPL. So yes, in that sense, you know, when you spend that kind of money on an individual player, that certainly is a bit of a challenge if you're a part of that group. But, you know, you need to slice it down. And similarly, I think CSK also did that.
Yeah.
You know, they got Rachin Ravindra at a cheaper cost, 1.8, Shardul Thakur for 4 crores. We all expected him to sort of go to that, at least a double digit. But he didn't. Harshal Patel did. Shardul Thakur did. So for them, a 20 crore package, they had 3 players.
Correct. It released sort of, Daryl Mitchell,
Yes, Daryl Mitchell came in, and then they sort of sorted out that combination. And for them, it became much stronger with that 20 crores that they spent.
Yeah, we've just got joined by AB de Villiers again. And AB, welcome back to this historic day, because it must pinch a little bit to be a batter at the moment, AB. When you look at the numbers flying around for Mitch Starc and Pat Cummins, over 40 crore rupees on 2 individuals. We first thought, okay, Pat Cummins, 20.5, that's massive. But in walks Mitch Starc at 24.75. What do you make of all the madness you've witnessed so far?
Absolutely unbelievable, gentlemen. I think we're all just in awe. I think the trick lies in you have to win the World Cup, and then things like this happen, right? You can only be happy for the guys. Obviously, KKR are under a bit of pressure now. I haven't spent most of their purse, but I'm sure they'll pick up a few a good value buys later on. And it's just incredible, and it just shows you the power of this tournament and where it's going. Every single year it gets bigger and better and stronger. But happy for those two. They're 2 stalwarts, and they know what they do with the ball in hand. And as we mentioned before, we did call this. We predicted that the bowlers are going to be hot property, and we were not disappointed at all.
Yeah, not disappointed at all. They certainly can't be as well. But Hess, AB brings a certain point in as well as we take a look at the purse remaining for these squads. You've still got 31.85 crore to GT. As you said, they can take a lot of money back home. And SRH now at 3.6. CSK is still at 11.6, so they could potentially get a big buy-in. MI with 8.15. We saw a couple of smart buys for them with the 2 quicks that they bought in Kotsia and Madhushankar. But the fact that also AB brought in, just that the World Cup just happened, there's a recency bias. Both these men featured, both these men did well. How much of that do you think had to say in this as well?
Oh, look, I'm sure it played a factor, without doubt. But even if they didn't win, Mitchell Starc, you know, has been on the radar of many teams for a long time. Pat Cummins, it's that leadership. I mean, AB's alluded to, he's just won the World Cup.
Yep.
SRH have been, I guess, devoid of that stability. So they brought in Dan Vittori. They've now got, they've now got Pat Cummins. You know, that whole leadership group now with Bhuvi, Aidan Markram is really steady, you know, in terms of what they do there. Whether they go with Pat Cummins as the captain will be interesting. But, yeah, I mean, let's just see what unfolds over the next few while. But there's not a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
Shah Rukh Khan's probably the only one.
Yeah, and when you look at, therefore, our fan voice and the votes that are coming in, Zach, are you a bit surprised with that? Because RCB, they've only added Alzari Joseph. As Hess was saying, he wasn't sure what they were waiting for in many ways. But overall, at the moment, our fan voice, our fans at home saying CSK with the best auction so far. A couple of steals with Shardul and Rachin Ravindra, and then they've added Daryl Mitchell and SRH. The addition of Pat Cummins seems to have gone down well with the Hyderabadi fans.
Well, all the fans are very smart. You know, you can make out from the percentages which are given, they're spot on. I think SRH had that clarity, and they just backed themselves with that. CSK were very smart. I think CSK got lucky with all the frenzy which was going on in that auction room, and they've walked away with some really good value buys. I felt from today. Shardul to start with, I think, you know, at that price, he's going to play a role. Ex-Chennai boy going back to Chennai is something, you know, which we were talking about. It was expected, but no one thought that it was going to happen at that price. Another young hero of the World Cup, Rachin Ravindra, was very impressive through and through. Him going at 1.8 to CSK, another player who can have that kind of an impact in terms of playing a role. So if you just take the numbers out and just focus on the players which they bought, they all are a great value add to that squad.
And Anil, when you look at Sunrisers, who also got a lot of votes in, they got a couple of real steals as well. Hasaranga at 1.5, we've been saying is one of the steals of the day. Travis Head at 6.8 as well. Pat Cummins at 20.5. But these two teams from the south, CSK with still 11.6 CR remaining, even though they spent a chunk of it on Daryl Mitchell, they probably were able to do that because they kept a lot more money for Rachin Ravindra and Shardul Thakur.
Yes, you know, you sort of balance things out in an auction like this, and I'm sure those 11.6, they will certainly look to buy a Shah Rukh Khan when he comes up. So yes, in that sense, Chennai have certainly done well with the auction, and SRH too. I mean, it's just that who's going to be that 4 that you're going to play in the playing 11, and who's going to captain. They've had a change of captain, change of coach last year, and then suddenly again this year you have had a change of coach and perhaps a change of captain too, if you have bought Pat Cummins into the scheme of things. So that's something that SRH will have to figure out. Hasaranga was a steal. He's a match winner. We have seen that through his career for Sri Lanka, and in that middle overs, you know, along with someone like a Markande, he bowled really well for them last year. You have Washington Sundar there, and with Travis Head and Aiden Markram, if both of them play, or even Glenn Phillips, you know, all of them can bowl a few off spinners.
They traded Shahbaz Ahmed.
Yes, they traded Shahbaz Ahmed. So they have quite a lot of options now, because that was one area where SRH didn't have that kind of experience and control with their spin department.
Yeah, both those teams were the busy bunch early in the auction. CSK adding another Kiwi, actually 2 of them, into the mix to go with Devin Conway as well. And that should make their Kiwi coach, Stephen Fleming, a very happy man.
Daryl's a different type of player, but his performances over, I think, the last 18, 24 months have warranted this type of price. He's an unfashionable player, you know, often go under the radar, but his ability to play spin, we saw during the World Cup. He's a competitor, and he's also a handy bowler. So in chip book, if we get there and it's a bit slow, he will do a roll. But I just like his performances. Talking with the captain, it fits in nicely to how we want to play the game, and it was a good buy for us. Yeah, we've had succession plans with MS for about 10 years, so they'll just roll on. But yeah, so it's going to be a talking point, isn't it? But he's as engaged and as enthusiastic as I've seen him for a while. So while that passion is there for the team and the franchise, we'll roll on.
They've had a succession plan for a long time. So far, it's definitely not anyone else but MS Dhoni. But Hess, they've added 2 Kiwis into the mix. Daryl Mitchell is a very vital cog now suddenly, because he plays really well against spin, uses his feet exceptionally well. He'll give you a couple of overs too. And now it just lends a bit more balance to that middle order too.
Yeah, I think there would have been a lot of talk about Rachin Ravindra, and potentially he would have used a lot of the purse, but the purse that was left over obviously went on Daryl, and Daryl certainly benefited from that. I mean, he'll bat in the middle. He can actually bat anywhere, but he can potentially bat at 6, and therefore you'll have Rachin and Mohan potentially fighting it out for that other slot. So between those 4 with Devin Conway, you've got a nice top 6.
Yeah, and then you've got Dubey, Daryl Mitchell, MS Dhoni, Ravindra Jadeja. That's a mighty middle order that CSK are building. Just a quick thought on the succession plan as well, because we keep talking about who's next for CSK. Now that Rutraj has gone on captained at the Asian Games as well, perhaps that is a plan that they start to nurture this season?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something which they will think about. They've been looking for that one individual who is going to step up. They went in Ravindra Jadeja's direction. That didn't really pan out exactly how they would have liked. So another individual in that camp is Ruturaj, who has already been captaining whenever he got the opportunity at the highest level. So with the exposure to high pressure situation, leadership, he will start thinking on those lines, and he will get better and better as he spends more time with MS as well. He's been someone who's seen how MS operates, or how the franchise culture is, how they go on doing their business in IPL. So I think that sounds just about right if they go in that direction.
So a few Kiwis added to CSK, but ABD, a few Aussies added to the Sunrisers, and one at a hefty price of 20.5 CR. Just going to come to you on the overall look and feel of that squad. Pat Cummins, firstly, at 20.5 crores. How important a buy was that? Because they came into the auction with money to spend and actually not much to fill. And when they get the steals like Travis Head and Hasaranga, it allowed them to spend the big bucks, didn't it?
Yeah, I actually think they did the best job in the whole auction so far. When we look at the poll earlier, I thought SRH are right up there. You remember this year's season, the IPL that were played out, they were one of my favorite teams, but they did lack a little bit of experience, and they certainly countered that now with Gamo and also Travis Head. And that's exactly what they needed. I think they were very smart. They're still a young team, but very talented now, along with the experience. So it's really boasting well for them. And I mean, Pat Cummins is worth every cent. He's a leader. He can hold the bat as well, and is a great competitor with the ball in hand. So I think they did really well.
He is a leader. He's now the leader of the Orange Army. Let's hear from Pat Cummins on becoming a Sunriser.
Pumped to be joining SRH for the upcoming IPL season. I've heard a lot about the Orange Army. I've played at Hyderabad a few times and always loved it. So can't wait to get started. Great to see another Aussie, Trav Head, over there as well. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun in this season and hopefully plenty of success.
That boundary wall of his house behind him, Hess, might go back a few steps after this, because at 20.5 CR, it's a lot of money that he's earned. But he is a very likable character as well. The leadership group that AB was talking about, it starts to come in even further now. You've got an Aiden Markram, you've got Pat Cummins, you already had a Mayank Agarwal, a Bhuvi. So suddenly there's a lot of leadership within that core outfit of the Sunrisers.
All they really needed was stability in their decision making. I mean, last year there was a lot of chopping and changing. I mean, Harry Brook is probably a prime example. He started at 5, he moved to the top, he moved to 3, and he batted 5 again. And that just creates real indecision. So, I mean, whether that's the owners, whether that's come from whoever it is, I think the beauty of having Pat Cummins is that he will be strong in terms of what he wants if he is made the leader. And he'll have a lot of stability around them. And he'll actually have a lot of options. And that is a high-quality squad in terms of they either go Travis Head, Markram and Klaassen. Then they can choose between, or obviously Cummins is going to play. If they want to play Hasaranga because conditions suit, they'll just play 2 of those batters. So potentially Markram might miss out. Obviously Travis Head can do that job. They've got Abhishek, could move to the top if there's an injury. You know, they've actually got all their bases covered from a spin bowling point of view, as Anil alluded to before. And the one thing SRH have always had are quality Indian seamers. And Bhuvi obviously leads that. So that is a very good squad. I think they've had a fine auction.
Yeah, it's going to be a good problem to have in terms of who you put into the playing 11. But that is a problem for Dan Vettori. At the moment, though, no problems, because it's been a fantastic auction for the Sunrisers. Let's hear from their coach.
Obviously, the fast bowlers were targeted. There's only a select few that you can go for, and obviously Pat's been bowling so well lately. He obviously brings in an element of batting as well, and like in all these auctions, someone else desperately wants them as well. That's why you get pushed to that high number. And because our team is relatively settled and we had a good budget, and the fact that we'd already picked up Travis Head and Hasaranga, we felt like we'd covered most things that we wanted the auction, so we had the ability to spend that much. We're pretty adamant on getting a left-handed batsman with Markram, Klaassen and Glenn Phillips in the squad. We felt with Brook there was a similarity between the 4 of them, so it just gave us some options, and it never diminishes how good a player it is. It's just the way that we thought we could go about it and give us some strike power at the top of that order. I think everyone knows how well he's been playing for an extended period of time now. So we're grateful to get him at that price. We expected him to go for more. And I think the captaincy, the second part, I think it's just a wait and see, really. We don't want to burden guys just at this stage. There's a lot of cricket left before the IPL. So we have to get through that, and then we'll make a decision close to the time.
Lost a lot of that beard, but he's gained a lot of players at the moment for the Sunrisers, Dan Vettori. And Anil, just another word on Wanindu Hasaranga, because it was an early pickup, and quite often the early buys, as we look at it in hindsight, are some of the best buys of every auction. And this, more and more, is looking like one of the steals of the day. At 1.5, someone who can really fit perfectly within that squad.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, they had Adil Rashid last season, but Hasaranga gives you a lot more because he is used to these conditions, bowling in these conditions. He bowls in all the slots for Sri Lanka, and he's been successful. He's someone who picks up 4 wickets more often than not than any other spinner. Yes, you can probably match him with a Rashid Khan.
Yeah.
Other than that, he is someone, and Yuzi Chahal these are the 3 spinners who sort of go and pick 4 wickets for you for a team, and that's what you want in a T20 format, or any format for that matter. And he's a match winner, so to get a match winner at 1.5 is a steal. And he can bat too, lower down in the order.
Yeah.
You've seen him float around for Sri Lanka, but he can bat.
Absolutely. And Zach, just on Hasaranga, are you a bit surprised that MI, for instance, didn't go after him, given the price of 1.5 and given that there's no real backup for a Piyush Chawla and a Kumar Kartikeya?
I think it's a timing.
Yeah.
When you're prioritizing bowlers and the spinner comes early, you want to let go of that player, and that has SRH benefiting from the whole auction dynamics. There are certain things which always play in auction, which we've seen today as well, and that's why it's surprising, or it's so nice to see RR securing someone like Roman Paul right up front in the auction. They didn't have that kind of budget like the other teams, but if you look at their buy, it was really good to just complete their playing 11.
Yeah, I think the early buys are suddenly looking like great buys at the auction. But what are you guys at home thinking? Because we've been asking you for your voice at home. The fan voice question is, which team has had the best auction so far? RCB up to 26%, SRH at 28%, and CSK a resounding 46%. RCB, remember, have only added the pacer Alzari Joseph. We'll chat about them on the other side of a short breather.
हमें उम्मीद है ऋषभ जल्द ही कमबैक करेंगे।
जब दर्द जीत के बीच आएगा, एक साथी तुझे पीछे हटने नहीं देगा। आयोडेक्स अल्ट्रा जेल प्लस, जिसमें है डाइक्लोफेनेक की डबल पावर, जो दे दर्द से दिन भर आराम। अब फिर से जीतना है।
A left-right opening combination, a wicket-taking spinner, and have we found a new finisher? India's Generation Next is ready for one last challenge before the World Cup. Watch IDFC First Bank India vs Afghanistan T20 International Series. 3 T20Is start January 11th. Live on Jio Cinema and Sports 18.
Welcome back to Match Centre Live's auction special, and what a historic day it's been. We've not only shattered the record in the history of the IPL auction once, but twice, courtesy Pat Cummins first up at 20.5 to the Sunrisers, and then a staggering 24.75 crore rupees for Mitch Starc to the Kolkata Knight Riders. Daryl Mitchell with a late buy from CSK at 14 CR, Harshal Patel at 11.75, and Alzari Joseph rounding out the top 5 buys, going to RCB at 11.5. And that's the only buy, Hess, for RCB at 11.5 CR. You were saying actually at the top that they needed a bit more. Is it a question of them actually missing out on a bunch? And we saw them go for Pat Cummins up until 20.25.
Look, I think you know, if Stark came earlier, they would have gone to 20.25 for him as well. They decided they'd go for Cummins because they would have been happy with either. Then the auction dynamic made the fact that KKR and Gujarat can basically blow them out of the water. So they've gone, okay, who's the next best bowler? But if they were going to do that, then they needed to buy an Indian quick before that as well. Because now they're going to be left with 12 crore. I'm not sure where they're going to spend it because all the Indian seamers have gone, pretty much. So they've bought Alzari at 11.5, who they must think is their next favourite seamer, which is fair enough. He's a fine bowler. And they're going to miss out on Stark. But now they've left themselves, as I said, without a fifth bowler.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure what they're going to do because they're going to buy a base price wrist spinner, I would think, from overseas. But that's going to cost them 50 lakh.
Yeah.
And then I'm not quite sure what they're going to do, just back up players. So it was always going to be a difficult auction once Stark came out in the fourth set and they knew they could get blown out. So it's difficult, but I think we always worried about their bowling attack. You know, if Cam Green's going to be your third seamer, that Swami or Karan Sharma are going to be your frontline starters. So yeah, there's still some work to do. I'm not quite sure how they're going to do it with what's available.
Yeah, Anil, when you look at that lineup now, you've got Akashdeep, you've got Vijay Kumar Vaishak, and you've got a Siraj. And okay, you've added Alzari Joseph, but it is looking a little thin. But the buy of Alzari Joseph at 11.5 CR, more than they would have bargained for?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they have Reece Stokely, who's perhaps, you know, on paper, he's a better, he has better T20 credentials. Yes, he's a left-arm seamer too. So I'm not really sure. Alzari Joseph certainly is a good bowler. He bowls really well. He has pace. He has bounce. And he can do well at the Chinnaswamy Stadium. But, you know, you only have space for one.
One, exactly.
So already 3 are taken.
Suddenly, Shardul and Harshal, those buys look more valid.
Yes, I think so. I think you needed an Indian all-rounder there. And you had, you left Harshal Patel because, you know, he didn't have a great season for RCB, but you have to replace him with another all-rounder. Shardul Thakur went for 4.
Yeah.
You could have easily gone for 4, but you kept all your money for Cummins, which I don't understand. I mean, you know, at 20 crores, they sort of were keen to go after a Cummins, but not really keen to go after a Shardul.
Yeah.
I don't think they even picked the baton for Shardul, so which is a bit of a strange, you know, thing because at the end of it, you need to balance that lineup. Yeah. And so, it's a bit of a challenge.
Given that they only had 23.25, they went till 20.25 for Pat Cummins. AB, I'd love to get your assessment of the squad at the moment. Just the addition of Alzari Joseph. The mood in the room here is that they did miss a couple of tricks as well in terms of the pacers that came and went and therefore dug themselves into a little bit of a hole searching for fast bowlers and had to therefore go with Alzari Joseph knowing that Mitch Stark will go for a lot more.
Yeah, I agree with Hess. They're in a little bit of a tricky spot. I do love the buy of Joseph. I've always rated him. He's a fiery bowler. I played against him on numerous occasions. He actually hit me on the head once, so he's got that little bit of fight in him. You know, he never backs down to any batter. So that's a great buy, but there's definitely still a bit of a balance issue there. And as Hess alluded to, they're going to need to spend a little bit more on the bowling department. Where they're going to find it, I'm not sure. Maybe they know something we don't, but hopefully they do come up with a few value buys and sort that bowling attack out. But Alzari Joseph is a really good buy. I'm very happy with that. But we need to fix that balance.
Yeah, how critical would he be, AB, at the Chinnaswamy? Do you think Alzari Joseph is the kind of bowler hit the deck that suits those conditions? Yeah, absolutely. You can't just kiss the deck on that wicket. You need someone like a Mohammad Siraj Joseph, someone who can really come in, hit the deck hard. I think of a Bumrah, someone who's also bowled well over there. And guys with a bit of skill, guys who are not scared of trying things. Because if you just go through the motions at the Chinnaswamy, you will get it.
ঘুমোনো খুব হেলদি ঘুমিয়ে পড়ো বাবু
স্পোর্টস খেলো হেলদি থাকো ভাই
কার্ডিও হেলথ চয়েস গুলো খুব কনফিউজিং কিন্তু আমার ওরাল হেলথ টোটালি সর্টেড আছে কোলগেট টোটাল দি অল ইন ওয়ান টুথপেস্ট আপনিও কি টোটালি সর্টেড আছেন
ಬೇಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಟೆಲಿಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಚಾನಲ್ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಹಾಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಗುರುವೇ, ಬೇಗ ಹಾಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಇಂಥದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ನ ಏನೇನು ನೋಡಬೇಕು ನೀವು ಟೆಲಿಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಚಾನಲ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಬರೋದು, ಇವರೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಬಾರ್ದ ನೀವು, ಕಣ್ ತುಂಬ್ಕೊಂಬಾರ್ದ. ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡಿರುವಂಥದ್ದು ಲಿಂಕ್ ಡೌನ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಷನ್, ಟೆಲಿಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಚಾನಲ್ ಎಲ್ಲಾನು ಅಪ್ಡೇಟ್ಸ್ ಅದರಲ್ಲೇ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಲೈವ್ ಅಪ್ಡೇಟ್ಸು. ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡ್ರಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್. ಇವಾಗ ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿಗೆ ಬರೋಣಪ್ಪ. ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫ್ನ 11.5 ಕೋಟಿ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಮ್ಮ RCB ಎತ್ತಾಕೊಂಡಿದೆ. RCBಗೆ ನಿನ್ನೆ ಅಂತೂ ಒಂದು ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರು RCB ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಯಾರು ಮೊದಲನೇ ಪಿಕ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು ನಮ್ಮ RCBಗೆ ಅಂತ ಪ್ರಿಡಿಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಹಾಕಿರೋ. ನಾನು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸೈಟಲ್ಲಿ ಗೊತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಮನೀಶ್ ಪಾಂಡೆ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಮನೀಶ್ ಪಾಂಡೆ ಅಂತ ಹಾಕೊಂಡು ಒಂದು ಏನೋ ಪ್ರೊಡಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಹಾಕಿದೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಬ್ಬರನ್ನ ಬ್ಯಾಟರ್ ಪಿಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹಾಕಿದ್ದೆ. ಬಟ್ RCB ಈ ರೇಂಜಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂಥರ ಯಾರು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿರಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫ್ನ ತಗೊಂತಾರೆ ಅಂತ, ಯಾರು ಕೂಡ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ನೀವು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾರನ್ನ ಮಗನೂ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪಿಕ್ ಫಾರ್ RCB ಅಂತ ನಂಬಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಸ್ಟನ್ ಆಗೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫ್. ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಬಟ್ ಈ ಪಾರ್ಟಿ ರೇಟ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗೋರು 11.5 ಕೋಟಿ. ಅಪ್ಪ, ನನಗಂತೂ ಇದು ಸೀರಿಯಸ್ ಆಗಿ ವರ್ತ್ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. RCB ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಹುಚ್ಚುಚ್ಚು ತರ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಪ್ಯಾಟ್ ಕಮಿಷನ್ 20.5 ಕೋಟಿಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಏನು ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಕಪ್ ವಿನ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ಟನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಟ್ಟೆ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರ. ಅವ್ರು ಗೆಲ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು, ಒಬ್ಬರೇ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಲಿ ಗೆಲ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಕಪ್ನ. ಏನು ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಅವರಿಂದ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದೇನೋ ಬಿಡಿ, ಏನೋ ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ಟನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೋದ್ರು. ಬಟ್ ಇವರಿಂದ 11.5 ಕೋಟಿ ರೇಂಜಿಗೆ ಹೋದ್ರಲ್ಲ. ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮು GT ಆಡಿದ್ರು, GT ಅವ್ರು ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫ್ ನಮಗೆ ಬೇಡ ಅಂತ. ಚೆನ್ನಾಗೇನೋ ಆಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಲ್ಲ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಮುಂಬೈಗೆ ಆಡ್ತಿದ್ರು, ಆಮೇಲೆ GTಗೆ ಬಂದ್ರು, ಇವಾಗ ಸೈಲೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ನ್ಯೂಟ್ಲಾಗ್ ಆಕ್ಷನ್ಗೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ರು. ಆಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇವಾಗ RCBಗೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫ್ 101 ಮ್ಯಾಚ್ T20 ಆಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಗೊತ್ತಿರದೆ ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫ್ ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ವಾ ನಿಮಗೆ? ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ 121 ವಿಕೆಟ್ಸ್ ನ ತೆಗೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಏನೋ ಡೀಸೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರದರ್ಶನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ. ಮುಂಬೈಗೆ 5 ವಿಕೆಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ತೆಗೆದಿದ್ರು ಜಮಾನ್ದಲ್ಲಿ, ನೆನಪಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫ್. ಇನ್ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಡೆಬ್ಯೂ ಮ್ಯಾಚ್ ಅಂತ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ, IPL ಡೆಬ್ಯೂ ಮ್ಯಾಚ್ 5 ವಿಕೆಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ತೆಗೆದುಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು ಅವಾಗ ಜಮಾನ್ದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಒಂದು 4-5 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ತೆಗೆದಿದ್ದು. ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫ್ ಏನೋ ನಾವು RCBಗೆ ಆ ಥರ ಏನೋ ಟರ್ನ್ ಟ್ವಿಸ್ಟ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರ, ನನಗೇನೋ ಆ ಪಾರ್ಟಿ ಕಾನ್ಫಿಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಏನೋ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಒಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಡೀಸೆಂಟ್ ಬೌಲರ್ ಅಂತ, ಕಳಪೆ ಬೌಲರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫ್ನ. ಒಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ 11.50 ಕೋಟಿ ರೇಂಜ್ಗೆಲ್ಲ ನಿಜವಾಗಲೂ ವರ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. LSG ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ತಲೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಬಿಡಬೇಕು ರಮ್ ಅನ್ನಂಗೆ. ನಮ್ದು ನಾವು ಹೆಂಗೆ SRH ಏರ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಡೋದ್ವಿ ನೋಡಿ ಇವ್ರದ್ದು, ಬ್ಯಾಟ್ ಕಮಿನ್ಸ್ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು, ಆ ಥರ ಇವ್ರು ನಮಗೆ ಏರ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಬಂದ್ರು. LSG ಅವರು ತಲೆಕೆಟ್ಟವ್ರ ಥರ ಬಿಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು. ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಗುರು ಸೀರಿಯಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಯಾರು ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫೇ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಏನ್ ಗುರು ಇದು ಹಿಂಗೆ ಶಾಕು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. 11.50 ಕೋಟಿ ಅದ್ರ ಲಿಟ್ರಲಿ ಇದು ವರ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದು 5 CR ಗಿನ ಒಳಗೆ ಬಂದಿತ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರಕಾರ 5 CR ವರ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಒಳಗೆ ಬಂದಿತ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಾಗಿತ್ತು. RCB ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಕ್ಕಂಗೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. GT ಅಂತೂ ನನ್ನ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಐತೆ ತಗೊಳ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಅಂದಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಇದೇನು ಅಂತ ಹೆವಿ ಕನ್ವಿನ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ಪಿಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಒಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ರೇಂಜಿಗೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗೇನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಡೀಸೆಂಟ್ ಬೌಲರ್ನೇ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಟೈಮ್ ಒಡ್ಸ್ಕೊಂತಾರೆ, ಒಂದೊಂದು ಟೈಮ್ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬೌಲಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದೇ ಅನ್ಸರ್ಟನಿಟಿ ಅಂತೂ ಇದೆ, ಆ ಒಂದು ಕನ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಿ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಲ್ಲ ಈ ಬೌಲರ್ಗೆ. ನೋಡೋಣ, ಒಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಪಿಕ್ ಅಂತೂ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾಯ್ತು, ಈಗ ಏನು ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ವರ್ಸ್ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಪಿಕ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ ನಾನು ಇವಾಗ. ಹೌದು, ದುಡ್ಡು ನೋಡ್ತು ಅಂದರೆ ವರ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಡೀಸೆಂಟ್ ಪಿಕ್ಕೇನೆ, ಬಟ್ ಆದರೆ ದುಡ್ಡು ವರ್ಷಾಗಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ನಮ್ಮ RCB. ಒಂಥರ ಏನು ಇವ್ರು ಏನು 100 ಕೋಟಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರು ಪೋಸ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ, ಹಿಂಗೆ ದಾರಿ ಹರಿತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರಲ್ಲ, ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಮುಗೀತು. ಇನ್ನು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಕು, ಪಾರ್ಕು, ಬದನೆಕಾಯಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಇವರೇ ಮೇನ್ ಬೌಲರು. 11.50 ಕೋಟಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಾರೆ. ಇನ್ನು 5 ಜನ ತಗೋಬೇಕು ನಮ್ಮ RCB. ಉಳಿದಿರೋಂಥ ಸಂವಾಟ್ ಅರೌಂಡ್ 10 ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಸಂವಾಟ್ ಮಿಕ್ಕಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ತೊಗೊಬೇಕು. 11 ಮಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ. ಅಷ್ಟು ಕೋಟಿಲಿ ಇನ್ನು 5 ಜನ ತಗೋಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನಮ್ಮ RCB. ಅದು ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಗುರು. ಇವ್ರಿಗೆ ಹೀರೋ ಆಫ್ ದ ಆಕ್ಷನ್ ಏನೇನೋ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ವಿ, ಯಾರೋ ಹೀರೋ ಥರ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ. ಬಟ್ ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫೇ ಹೀರೋ ಥರ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಯಾರೋ ಕೂಡ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಪಟ್ಟೆ ಜನ ಡಿಸಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡಿರೋದು ನಾನು ನೋಡ್ತು ಅಂತ ಅಂದರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಹೂ ನೋಸ್, ಇವರೇನೆ ಗೇಮ್ ಚೇಂಜು, ಟೂರ್ನಮೆಂಟ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು RCBಗೆ ಅಂತ ಆ ಒಂದು ಬಿಲೀಫ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರ್ ನಂಬಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರಬೇಕಷ್ಟೇ. ನಾವು ಇವಾಗ ಸದ್ಯದ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬಿಲ್ಡಪ್ ಅಂತೂ ಕೊಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಈ ಪಿಕ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಇವ್ರು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರೋ ದುಡ್ಡನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ನಾಲ್ಗೆಗೆ. ಬಟ್ ಈಚೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬಾರ್ದು ಅಷ್ಟೇ ನಾನು. ಆ ಥರ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಗಂಟ್ಲಲ್ಲೇ ತಗ್ಲಾಕೊಂಡು ಒಳಗಡೆ ಅದಮ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. RCB ಏನು ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ವೋ, ನೀವು ನೆಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿತ್ತು ಆಕ್ಷನ್ನ, ಅಂದರೆ ಸೊಟ್ಟಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿತ್ತು. ಬಟ್ ಈ ರೇಂಜಿಗೆ ಸೊಟ್ಟಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅಂತ ನಮಗಂತೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಂದರೆ ಇವ್ರು ಅದೇ ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ, ತೊಗೊಂಡ್ರದ್ದು ಬೇಜಾರಿಲ್ಲ, ಕೊಟ್ಟರು ಅಂತ ದುಡ್ಡು ನಮಗೆ ಬೇಜಾರಾಗ್ತಿದೆ ಗುರು. ಏನು ಗುರು ನೀನೇನು ಕೊಡ್ತೀಯ ದುಡ್ಡು, ಅವ್ರ ಪಾಪ ಕೊಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಬಿಡು ಗುರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಫ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ ನಾವೇ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಏನು ಗುರು ಇದು, ನನಗಂತೂ ದುಡ್ಡಂತೂ ಕನ್ವಿನ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಇದು. ಇವರು ಓಡೋಗಿದ್ದವ್ರಿಂದ. ಸೊ ಓಕೆ, ಡೀಸೆಂಟ್ ಪಿಕ್ಕೇ ನೋಡೋಣ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ. ಇವ್ರು ಮೇಯ್ನ್ ಬೌಲರಾಗಿ ಆಡಬೇಕು ನಮ್ಮ RCBಗೆ. ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫ್ ಆಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅವನ ಅಜ್ಜಿ ನಮಗೆ ಸೈಕ್ ಆಗ್ತೈತಿ. ಜಿರಾಲ್ಡಾರ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋದಲ್ವಾ ಗುರು 5 ಕೋಟಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದ್ರು. ನಜ್ಜಿ ಏನ್ ಗುರು ಇದು ನಮ್ಮ RCB ತಲೆ ಚಚ್ಕೊಬೇಕಷ್ಟೇ. ಬಿಡಿ ಹೋಗ್ಲಿ, ನೀವು ಕಮೆಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿ. ನನಗಂತೂ ಇದು ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಭಲೆ ಕನ್ವಿನ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ಅನ್ಸಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಡೀಸೆಂಟೇನೆ. ದುಡ್ಡಂತೂ ವರ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಇವ್ರು ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡಿರೋದನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತು ಅಂದರೆ. ಜಿರಾಲ್ಡ್ ಅವರು ಬೆಟರ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರು ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರಕಾರ. ಕ್ವಾಡ್ಸ್ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡಿತ್ತು ಇನ್ನೂ ಬೆಟರ್ ಆಗಿರೋದು, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ವಿಕೆಟ್ ಟೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಿ ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಪಟ್ಟೆ ಸಲ ಇವಾಗ ರೀಸೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಅಂತೂ ಮೂಡ್ ಬಂದಿದ್ರೆ. ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ T20 ಆಡಿದಾಗ ಒಂದೇ ಮ್ಯಾಚಲ್ಲಿ 3 ವಿಕೆಟ್ ಎದುರ್ದು ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಓವರ್ ಡೆತ್ ಓವರ್ ಬೌಲಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು 30-35 ಹೊಡ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ಬೋದು ಜಿರಾಲ್ಡ್ ಅವರು. ಬಟ್ ಆದ್ರೂ ರೀಸೆಂಟಾಗಿ ನೋಡಿ ಯಾವ ಥರ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮೆನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ. ಇವ್ರದ್ದು ರೀಸೆಂಟಾಗಿ ಅದು ಯಾವುದೋ ಲೀಗಲ್ ಆಡಿದ್ರಂತೆ ಅಲ್ಜಾರಿ ಜೋಸಫು. ಆ ಲೀಗಲ್ ಆರ್ಡರ್ನ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೆಟ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಮೇಲೆ ಆಡಿರೋದು ಗಿರಾಲ್ಡ್ ಅವರು. ಅದನ್ನು ಇವರು ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಅನಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಯಾವುದೋ ಲೀಗಲ್, ಯಾವುದೋ ಕೆರೆಬಿಯನ್ ಲೀಗೋ ಬದನೆಕಾಯಿ ಲೀಗಲ್ಲೋ ಆರ್ಡ್ರನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ತೊಗೊಂಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇವ್ರು ಗುಡ್ಡೆ ಹಾಕೊಂಡಿಲ್ಲಿ ಹಂಗೆ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡು ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಇವ್ರನ್ನ. ನೋಡೋಣ ಇದು ಕೈ ಹಿಡಿಯುತ್ತಾ ಅಥವಾ ಕಾಲೆತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತಾ ಅಂತ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಏನು ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಈ ಪಿಕ್ಕು? ಹಾನೆಸ್ಟಾಗಿ ಹೇಳಿ. ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಕನ್ವಿನ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಡೀಸೆಂಟ್ ಪಿಕ್ಕೇನೆ, ದುಡ್ಡು ಕನ್ವಿನ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಕಾಮೆಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿ. ಸಿಗೋಣ, ಬಾಬಾ.